So the first step is just to find a stock image of a superhero that you would want to work with. I've always been a huge fan of Wolverine ever since I was a kid, so I'm choosing him. We just want to copy and paste it into Adobe Illustrator for us to get started. We're going to go ahead and lock that layer and then make a new layer that we're going to do our pen tool paths on top of. Now looking at him, I can see that he's got three major elements that I'm working with. His body, his shirt, and then his hair, and also his claws in the background. So I'm going to start with the body. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's kind of behind everything else. I know that the hair would go on top of him, the shirt would go on top of him. So I'm going to start with that body. And that body can be, pretty much the whole outline of the entire figure. So I'll start with my pen tool. And the goal is just to add anchor points to be able to pull those handles so that the angles and the line match up with the outside of his body. I can use my direct selection tool if ever I place the anchor in the wrong spot, or just hit Control Z and back up to the place where I was at before. Remember, to stop the angle from continuing based on where you pull that handle, you'll want to go ahead and just click that anchor point after you've pulled that handle so that you can start off with a straight line once again. Now at this point, I can kind of go over his shirt because I know that I'm going to be doing his shirt next, and I can just place that on a layer on top. His second arm is a different shape, so I'll just go ahead and hit the selection tool and then re-click the pen tool to be able to trace that out on the same layer, but having it as a separate object. Next, to match his skin tone, I'll just use the eyedropper tool, and with the object selected, I can just click that object tool on any part of the photo underneath it, and it will choose the color based on that selection. Right, so it looks like I've got all the parts of the body that I need. My next step is just to make a new layer for the shirt. And I'm going to go ahead and hit the eyeball icon so that it doesn't get in my way and I can see everything. Gone. And just as before, use that pen tool to trace out the shape of the shirt. Again, it makes sense to not have a fill color so that you can see it. So I've selected 0 fill color for that. I'll go ahead and use the eyedropper tool again to select the color of the shirt. And turn on back my last layer so I can see how they look together, and then build a new layer. This time I'll go for the hair. It makes sense a lot of the times to zoom in so you can get all the details and be able to see them a little bit better. To kind of make the graphic representation of what I'm doing, I'm not going to try and get every single detail. Wolverine is iconic for his sideburns and his hair. I figured his eyebrows would probably make another good element to use, but we don't need every single little detail. Again, I'm using the eyedropper tool just to select the color, and then just doing multiple objects within the same layer to get the eyebrows in there as well. Take a look at all of it together. It's looking all right. So I'll go ahead and make a new layer for the claws. I'm kind of getting sloppy with the bottom edges of my claws, as you can see, because I know those are just going to go behind the hands. And all I did was just change the layer order in order to push them behind everything else. So taking a look, I've still just got kind of that weird spot in his armpit that I want to make a little bit different. So I'm just selecting the body layer so that I can put that piece in there. And I can be sloppy with this one too, because I can just place it behind that body layer within that layer order. I'll use my eyedropper tool to select the color and then just move it underneath the other two objects in that body layer. Next thing I want to do is make a background, and then just order that layer at the very bottom behind all my other layers and objects. Before we call it done, we just want to go in and make sure there aren't any holes that we left behind. You can fix those using the pen tool. If you select the pen tool and select an existing path, when you hover over it, you will see that plus sign, which means you can add anchor points to any spot, and then just use the direct selection tool to move those anchor points around, so that we can fill it all in.